This is Cha-Cha Dave. Tonight I'm going to be making rustic lamb stew. It's a very inexpensive cut. Alright, these are shoulder chops, and there's bones in here, and you leave them in there. And the first thing I'm going to do is you want to salt and pepper these. I have 6 chops here, and you make sure you do both sides. And there's not a lot of seasonings in here. The only seasonings that we're going to put in here is thyme and rosemary and garlic, but you know, not a lot of seasonings. Alright, so you just press that in like that, okay? And the oil sounds like it's pretty hot now. We're going to drop this in. You want to brown these. You want to get a little bit of a crust on them. The salt and pepper will help that. Okay? And so that needs to be okay. Just while that's frying, this is what we're going to be putting in. We're going to put in chopped tomatoes. We're going to put in onions, carrots, celery, and white potatoes, which I did not take the skin off. And I cut them in odd chunks so that it's very interesting when it's in the stew. And this is rosemary here that I put in my pestle. This thing's like a murder weapon. And then we put in the onions after these start to brown. Okay? The meat is beautifully browned. And what I want to do is I'm going to put the onions in next. Take all of the meat and put it over to one side of the pan. Like that. And then I'm going to put the onions in. Okay. They have to become translucent. And then what I'm going to do is put in the celery as well. I like to saute the celery ahead of time. The carrots go in after. And this is going to saute for about, I would think, about 5 minutes. Okay, now I'm back, and you can see that the onions are nicely glazed with the celery. Now at this point, I put a little bit of flour and water that I mixed in there, okay? So that it'll start thickening up. You scrape the bottom. Alright, now I can move the lamb over. Put a little bit in there. Give it a little stir. I'll put a little bit more in after, but I just like to get the flour to cook a little bit, and then we'll have, it'll act as a thickening agent. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is put the carrots right in. Okay, then I'm going to put in my chopped tomatoes. These are canned tomatoes, they're quite good, just a cup of those, okay? And that can be stirred around a little bit. Let me raise the heat so I can bring it back to the boil now. Okay? Now, so you stir that all around. The potatoes go in at the last minute. Not the last minute, but they go in toward the end because they'll fall apart. Now I put in about 2 cups of chicken broth. Okay? So that the meat is covered. Push that down into that. And then on top of that I'm going to put in garlic, which has been chopped. I'm going to put in thyme. Okay. Then in my little mortar and pestle here I have rosemary that I've been putting that in, and then that goes in. Okay, that works beautifully with lamb. And I'm going to put a little parsley in there to give it some flavor. A little bit more salt now. I tasted this while you were away. Okay. Now I'm going to raise the heat. And then what I do is I'm going to cover it, and this has to actually simmer for about an hour and 20 minutes, so that the lamb is nice and tender. And probably the last 15 minutes I'm going to put the potatoes in, okay? And we'll be back to show you that. Okay, I'm back. I'm now going to put the potatoes in there. Actually, bring that camera up here. While we were away, okay, I was talking to like Porky Rosie, the Porky Pig, okay? She was so happy. She was very concerned because sometimes I cook pork and she gets really upset. But this is lamb, and so she went, eh. And also while we were waiting for this to cook down, I was telling Amor some jokes because we were kicking back here, you know, we have some fun. And I was telling him when I was cooking at this restaurant in Club Nashville, it was called. It was really a dump. It was in my early days. Let me tell you, it was about 25 or 30 years ago. And this drunk came in a phone booth, and he, Amor really, he laughed and laughed when I told him this joke. And he called his girlfriend, Mary, and he said, Mary, I want to come over, Mary. And he didn't say, I just want to come over. He said some other things, but this is a family program, so I'm not going to get into that. And he kept saying he was going to come over, and he was going to come over. Mary, Mary, and then he went, hello? Hello? Obviously, Mary didn't want him to come over. Anyway, you know what? You had to be there. But at any rate, Amor really laughed a lot when I told him this joke. He's got a dirty mind. Okay, now this is boiling up. We're putting the potatoes in. Okay, and this has to actually now simmer for, I would say, another 15 minutes so that the potatoes aren't, I don't want them to break apart. Okay, so I'm going to stir that around. Look at this. This is really beautiful. Alright, the gravy is thickened up. This smells really terrific. Okay, and so we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to plate up this delicious lamb stew, this rustic lamb stew. This is great for a nice cold winter night. It's very simple. It's a very casual dish. Okay, you have your potatoes and your carrots. And I'm going to put this plate it up right here. I'm going to put and this is real comfort food. It's quite delicious. Okay, now this is, we're going to put a little bit more pepper on the top of this, a little salt, a little parsley. I'm going to clean this plate up here. Okay, and this is great with bread. Okay, so you can sop up the gravy. This is very hot, so I'm going to go slow. This is really delicious. The gravy is delicious with the rosemary and the thyme and the lamb juices and all of the vegetables. And this is a wonderful winter meal. I mean, people make it in the summer also, but it's really a terrific winter meal. Okay? And it's relaxed. Friends can come over, you can make this and have a good time.